Welcome to the Layer Switch training course. My name is Vincent Bova, RTI Director of Training at AV Pro. In this course, we're going to review the functionality and features of the Layer Switch driver. This is a simple to use free driver, which allows RTI installers to control the user interface, viewing, and hiding layers without using complicated flag logic. While this driver was created to control different groups of layers, there are many other ways to use the Layer Switch driver. We'll provide a link to the driver, including the course file, so you can practice using the Layer Switch driver. Let's launch the Integration Designer software. To illustrate the Layer Switch driver, I created a project file with some common scenarios. The first exercise will be to highlight the main functions of the Layer Switch. In the most basic form, the Layer Switch can control and manage groups of layers without complicated logic. Now in this file, I created two rooms, a media room and a sports bar. Each room has its own iPad with some pages. Each page will have a different exercise using the Layer Switch to give you an idea of the possibilities. So let's select the first home page and give you a show of what's going on here. On this page, I have three buttons: video, audio, and control. There's also a lot of other functions which are going to highlight some of the features of Layer Switch. But in the most basic form, we're going to pop up the video sources, the audio sources, and the control sources. Here you can see I have three different layers. A video layer of sources that I'll select when I set the source video source, and the audio source layer when I press the button for the audio sources, and the control sources when I select the control button. Pretty simple. We're going to show you how to pop those up and, more importantly, suppress any other layers in that group when we select the layer, and we'll show you the other options as well. Let's add the Layer Switch driver so I can show you how this works. I'm going to go to the Add Workspace item, navigate to the Driver tab, and set your library to User. I'm going to select the Layer Switch driver, and I'm going to add that to the global area. Highly recommended you add it to the global area. In the next screen, you want to make sure you use the source name for the driver set, and we're going to name this Layer Switch. Under the pages, Layer Switch will not create any pages, so I'm just going to untick these and add our driver. Let's click Close, and let's navigate to the driver properties so I can show you how to configure the Layer Switch driver. Now in the Layer Switch driver, it's asking if you want to add some layer groups. There are two types of layer groups. There's a global layer group. Right now there is none being used, and there are exclusive layer groups. You could see up to 5 are being used. Now here are the limits of the Layer Switch driver. You can have 15 different groups of global layers. I'll explain global and I'll explain groups in a second. You could also have 30 layers in each global group. In the exclusive layer groups, you could have 75 groups of layers, each group consisting of 50 different layers. Now let's talk about global versus exclusive. A global layer, let's say you create a global layer on 5 different controllers, and then you select a button to show that layer. Well, it will show up on all those different controllers in your home or business. And that could be pretty invasive and not really common, but in some cases, you're going to want to use global layers. I'll give you some examples. Maybe you want to trigger a pop-up using Layer Switch when someone rings the bell, or when there's a security alert, or when you want to show a weather status in an area where it's prone to bad weather. So those are types of layers that you want to pop up, not just on one controller, but on multiple controllers. Now, exclusive layers are the opposite. If the layer exists on all your different controllers in the home or business, when you select a layer, it's exclusive to that controller. Even though it exists on the other controllers, it'll only pop up on the controller you invoke it on. Okay? Now, what are layer groups? Well, we have global layer groups and exclusive layer groups. A layer group is a group of common layers. For example, on our page, those are activities. So we're going to have an activity type of group, and inside that group, we'll have the video, audio, and control. And those are what layer groups are. You're going to want to group layers by type. For example, if you're popping up some layers that are exclusive and you want them to be only one at a time and make sure only one of those layers in that group can be selected at once, you're going to want to put them in the same group. Okay? They have to be common to the function because if a layer is not in the group, you cannot impact it. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. It gets real simple. Now, let's configure our driver. Now, under global groups, I'll show you how this works. Currently, it's set to using no global groups. I'm going to set this to use one global group. And now you can see here, there's a global layer group, and it says usage, and it says not used. We're going to want to enable that group and set it to used. Now that we have a global layer group, let's call this important pop-ups. And I'll create 3 of them. So I'm going to go and navigate to 3. Remember, we have a total of 30 global groups. Total of 30 global layers in each of the 15 groups. So I'll do 3 layers in that group. And maybe layer 1 can be weather alert, just like our examples. We'll do a weather alert layer. And on layer 2, we'll do a doorbell notification. And on layer 3, we could do a security message. Those layers, when invoked, will pop up on every controller that has that layer. Okay? Now, I'm not really going to go into too much of global layers. We'll try to get to it, but I'm really going to focus on the exclusive layers since those are more common. So under the exclusive layer groups, let's do our example. I'm going to go back to the global homepage, the iPad, and I'm going to show you on the main page, we have video sources, audio layer sources, and controllable sources, and that's a separate layer. So our group is going to be called activities. So let's create the group. Let's select used next to the first exclusive group, and let's name this activities. Now, how many activities do we have? We have 3. We have video, we have audio, and we have control. Now that you have the groups entered, that's all you have to do. Remember, you have 15 groups of global layers. You have 30 layers within each of those 15 groups. For the exclusive layer groups, you get 75 groups of layers, and each group can consist of 50 different layers. All right, let's go to our homepage and show you how this is programmed. Now, with this video button, I want to send a command to Layer Switch telling me to pop up this video sources pop-up or activity sidebar. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to select this button here. I've already pre-tagged everything so you can easily see what you're doing here. And I'm going to go to the macro, and I'm just going to go to the source level macro, and I'm going to add a command. And I'm going to select the layer switch. And now under functions, I'm going to set that layer. Now there's lots of different commands. Let's focus on the layer switching command. And the group is called, activities. Set selected layer group activities. Okay? So let's set that and see what happens. Now when you set a layer, there are a couple of different options. You could set that group to none, meaning if any of those layers are showing up from that group, none will suppress them all. All will pop up all the layers in that group. So the control, the audio, and the video will all display with this one command. Or I could select a specific activity, source activities. video will pop up the video layer. Let's see how this works now. Now that I have the layer set, what about the layer itself? I'm going to go to the layer properties. And where it says visible, I'm going to make this visible when that layer switch is set. I'm going to select the layer switch driver, and under the activity group, I'm going to select video status. Notice you can select any in group, so the layer can pop up if anything in that group has been selected, video, audio, and control. All of them are selected. That would invoke another layer. None of them were set. That will also invoke another layer. And then you have the discrete layer groups. Let's go with the video and select OK. And now select OK. Now, the whole function of the set command is that if you set the video layer, it will pop up the video layer and suppress or hide any other layers that are in that group. So let's say audio was popped up and you selected the video. The audio would go away. Let's program the other two so I could show you what I mean. For audio, we're going to go to the ellipsis next to the visible state. And under the layer switch, we're going to select audio status. We want the audio status to be true for this layer to pop up. And now click OK, and let's take care of the control sources. Click the ellipsis, and then click the control status. And now, when we select the video layer, this will show. When we select the audio layer, this will show. And when we select the control layer, this will show. Now, there are other commands you can use that will make your layers not suppress other layers. We also have the ability to enable or disable layers. And if you enable a layer and another layer in that group is showing, it doesn't care. It won't suppress it. It will show that layer in addition to what's been set or enabled as well. So let's program this and see what this does. I'm going to go and click on the source macro here. I'm going to bring in a command. And this time, when I select layer switch, I'm not going to go for this set function, set selected layer function, which will show the layer and hide any other layers in that group. I'm going to go with the layer switching section. Now, you'll select your layer that you want to show, and now you have three different options. Enable, which will show the layer in that group. Disable, which will hide the layer in the group. And toggle, which will toggle from enable to disable to enable. So whichever one you want to use, you'll select. I'm going to enable the video layer in this section. Now, with the enable and disable, again, if you enable a layer and another layer is already showing in that group, whether it's been set or enabled, it will show that layer in addition to that layer. Okay? All right, so let's enable that. And I'm just going to copy my command here, and I'm going to paste it to disable. And I'm just going to change this to disable. So it's easier that way. And then I'm going to go to the next set of buttons for audio and video. I'm going to paste that in, and I'm going to set this to audio enable, copy, paste, and then audio disable. And then I'm going to rinse and repeat with the control layer. I'm going to enable the control layer, copy that, and then disable it. Okay? We also have a toggle. So again, the way this works now is if you enable the video layer will show up. And now if you enable the audio layer will also display. And then if you enable the control layer, that will also display. So set will set that layer exclusively for that group and hide the others in the group. And enable will show the layer in the group and not suppress any layers in that group, and disable will disable just that layer in the group. So if I select disable the video will hide. If I disable the control will hide. And now I'm left with the audio, and I could either disable the audio or I can enable something else. Now there's some other commands as well that I want you to see here. On the bottom, there's some other functions that I want to share with you. Show none. Show none, if I unlock the toolbar, show none is a command that will hide all the layers in the group. Let's see how this works. I'm going to bring in a command here, and now under my layer switch, there's a couple of commands available under the set selected layer bucket under activities. You want to select the right group. So if I select none and all three of these layers were enabled, well, they would all go away. It's a way to clean out your layers. If I show all, you could probably guess what that does. I'll just copy this. It shows every single layer in that group. Okay? So those are the opposite. We also have the ability to scroll through the layers. And those are these two buttons here. You can scroll forward and backward. So I'm going to go and select the command. And I'm going to select my layer switch. And now for the selection here, I'm going to go with the scroll layer function. And now I can select my layer group here. Oops, I selected the wrong one. My apologies. I'm going to go with the scroll layer navigation under the activity layer, not the important pop-ups. And now you can see here, we can scroll forward or backward. I'm going to scroll backward on the activity layer. And then this function will scroll forward. Now, what will this do? Well, it depends on the order of your layers in the properties. So you can see here in the layer switch driver properties, the video is the first one, the audio is the second, and the control is the third. Doesn't matter what order your buttons are in. And so on our page here, what this will do, if no layers are selected, forward will start showing the layers. So it will show the video layer. Then when you scroll forward, it will show the audio layer. And then you scroll again, it will show the control layer. And then if you select backwards, it will show the audio layer and then back to the video layer. Note, these will not wrap around. They could only go to the end and go to the beginning. So you can go forward and back. And that's useful if your client wants to navigate with sources. So pretty cool function. There's also a show a previous layer function. And showing the previous layer function will show whatever previous layer was either set or enabled. It's a way for you to get back to the last layer that was popped up. So let's bring in a command. Let's select the layer switch. Let's head down to the function under the activities, and we're going to select the previous layer function for the activity group. Make sure you select the right group. We only have one group in this, but when we add multiple, you're going to want to select the right group in here. It will default to the first group or the only group. And that's it. That's how you'd use these functions right here. Now, the layer switch also has some feedback, and we're going to go over the feedback. You already saw the visible state feedback on the layers. Status. This will enable that video layer when the status is true. Somebody selected the ability to set or enable that layer. Okay? Now, what if I wanted to reverse state this set button when that layer is popped up? That way I know what activities I'm looking at. Well, let's head over to our, pull this out a little bit, head over to our variable, and under the source variable, I'm going to go to my reverse state, 3-dot menu, navigate to the layer switch driver, and now I want to select video status. So when video status is true and that layer is popped up, I want to reverse state this button and select OK. I'm going to do the other two buttons. I'm going to go here, reversed, select audio. And then I'm going to go to the control, go to the reverse state, and select control. And now these will show the reverse state when the button is popped up. Okay? You could also do the same thing with enable and disable. So for example, if I enable this layer, I would do the same exact one. Well, now video status is enabled. Excuse me. And if I disable the layer, well, I don't really need to do that. But what I could do is reverse state this by default. And now I can reverse state that back to normal when video status is true. And then I could rinse and repeat with these. This will be enabled when audio is true. I'll reverse state this so it's the normal state. The reverse state is the normal state. And I'll make this reverse back to the normal state when audio is true. Same thing with this. Control. Reverse state to disable by default. And then we'll reverse state that back to normal when control is selected. Okay? Now there's also some other feedback you can do. For example, if none are showing, I could reverse state that button to say none in the activity group has been selected. And under all, I don't think there's an all. I'll check. Yes, all in group status. All of them are selected. Now that will reverse state. Now there's also a couple of buttons up top. This button will reverse state and show a glowing LED when any layer is selected. So let's reverse state this when any layer in the activity group is selected. Now, when any layer in that group is selected, that will turn its color. Now, this button over here is going to light up when none is selected. So it's going to look like this, a different color, when none is selected. So let's go to the reverse state and let's select none and make sure this is back to its normal state. Let's recap what we've done so far. We learned how to set a layer within a group. Once you set a layer within a group, any other layers that are being displayed in that group will hide or be suppressed. That is the set layer. And we demonstrate when we set a layer, we can show that layer exclusively, whether it's video, audio, or control. Note, that won't affect any other layer groups. Then we learned how to enable a layer in a group. And when you enable a layer in the group, it will display that layer, but also will allow you to enable other layers and show them as well. This isn't a great example of that, but we'll move on to other examples. We've also learned how to disable those layers in the group, which can disable them one at a time. We also have the ability to show none, which will show none of the layers within the activity group or all the activities in the layer group. We also have the ability to scroll through the layer groups. For example, if audio is being shown and we advanced it to the next layer, the control layer will be shown. And that's directly impacted by the order of the layers within the driver properties. We've also have a toggle for the layer to enable and disable, but I didn't use that. In addition, we have the previous button, which will show whatever the previously selected layer was. Note that this button won't work if you didn't select a layer in the first place. Okay, so that will show whatever layer was previously shown before the current selection. We also showed you feedback. You have discrete feedback for each layer: video status, audio status, and control status. You also have discrete feedback for none being shown or all being shown. You also have discrete feedback for any being shown. and here's the none as well. So the layer switch is really powerful for popping up layers without having to use complicated logic. It's also a very good driver to use if you have lots of groups of layers, which we'll go over some other examples in the next segment. So practice those concepts. We'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, on to our next page in the media room. Now these examples are going to be also pretty simple and basic, but we're going to keep working on the more basic ones before we move on to more advanced examples. Now on this screen, we have a couple of different layers we want to pop up. First, we have this favorite button here that we want to pop up a favorites layer, okay? And then we have the mute button here. And since we're using IR codes for our mute and not a driver, we want to pop up a mute pop-up after we set the mute on our IR device. That way we can use the layer switch to do it. Also, we have a please wait page when we run another activity, like the DirecTV, or whatever activity. Now, it's debatable of whether you want to put these three in the same group. I don't think I would in real life, but we'll just throw them in the same group. So I'm going to head over to my layer switch driver, and I'm going to add another exclusive group, and I'm going to use this group. So I'm going to select used, and now it'll ask me, what do you want to call this second layer group? And I'm just going to call it my media room pop-ups. And I've got 3 again. And we'll enter them in. I have a please wait. I have a favorites. And I have a mute pop-up. Again, I don't think it's a great idea to put these in the same layer group. I'd probably want to put them all in their own layer group and just have one layer in each group. But I'll just throw them all in the same group. That way we can only have one at a time selected. Now I'm going to head back to my media room on my iPad, page 2. And now for my DirecTV, let's get that please wait page popped up. Now obviously over here I would program my activity, but I would start it with a please wait page. So I'm going to bring in a command, my layer switch, and now I'm going to set that media room pop-up layer. Whoops, wrong one. Set layer media room pop-ups. And I'm going to select the please wait for this one. Now, if we pop up the please wait, we have to make it go away. So I'll do a brief delay. I'll do 3.5 seconds, and then I'll bring in another command to make that layer set to, or maybe I'll disable that layer. So instead of using this, I'll go into the media room pop-ups under layer switching and disable that layer so it won't show. Okay, so we've got that. I could also enable that layer so all 3 can show at the same time, but I'll set the layer so that'll only pop up and then disable it so other layers won't go away. All right, that's good enough for me. And now for my favorites button, I'm going to pop up my favorites. So again, bring in a command, layer switch. We're going to set or enable. I'll just enable it or set it. I'll enable it. And I'll set the favorites. And then I will pop up the favorites. And then I'll make sure that I have a little bit of an exit button below. I'll move this a little lower. And then I'll put a little button on here. Let's select our buttons under Coral Elements. Let's look for a button. I'll put it over here. Center it. And this will just exit our layer. So the client can exit that pop-up when he's done selecting his icons, his channel icons. So let's make that 20. Let's put some different font on it. We'll change the font size to 30. Bold it. That looks good. We'll make it red so it stands out. Actually, that doesn't look great, so I'll make it black. All right, so we have our exit button. Let's put a tag on it. We'll call this exit favorites. And on this guy, all we're going to do is put another command on here. So if this command enabled it, let's make this command disable our favorites. And now our favorites will go away. Now our mute pop up. So I'm going to select this button here, and this will have an IR mute command. If it was a driver, we wouldn't need the layer switch. And now after the mute command, we'll pretend we have one, we'll go and enable that layer. So macro steps, bring in a command, layer switch. Let's set the mute pop-up layer. I'm going to set this time. And now what I'll do is a system variable test. And what this will say is, if the layer switch says that my mute pop-up status is true, well, I'm going to disable it. Or I could say set media room pop-ups. I could say set it to none if it's set, or if it's not set, let's set it to the mute pop-up. And now this will toggle between the mute pop-up with the mute toggle. And there'll also be a comment in here for our fake IR mute toggle command. That way it will pop up and go away with the toggle. All right, so that's our layer switch. Now we could also pop, when our favorites is selected, we could also reverse state that. So now I can go to my favorites, and now if my favorite pop-up is showing, this will reverse state as well. The last thing we need to do is program the layer's visible states. So I will go to my favorites, layer properties, and where it says visible, click the ellipsis, and under layer switch, if favorite status is true, show the layer for it. And click OK. We'll do the same thing with the mute pop-up. And last but not least, the please wait. That's all that needs to be done for this to work. Now let's take a look at our iPads and check our work. On our iPad, all three layers are disabled. Show none is highlighted, and so is the none LED status. And set video. Our video layer will show, and our video layer is enabled. Let's set our audio. Now our audio is enabled, and our video is disabled. Let's set control. Now both our video and audio layer is hidden, and our control is set. Now let's enable our video, enable our audio, and enable control. All three layers and show all is selected. Now let's advance through the different layers. As you can see, we can toggle through backward and forward through our layers. Let's select the audio layer and then show previous. You'll see the video selected. Let's show previous again. The audio is selected, and then back to the video. So it works perfectly. Show none will defeat all layers. Show all will show all the layers. Here we are inside our satellite bar. Let's select the mute button, and you can see our system is muted. Let's select it again, and it's disabled. Now let's select our DirecTV. The please wait page pops up, and after a few seconds will go away. What about the favorites button? The favorites pops up. Let's select a couple of favorites, and then let's select exit, and the layer will go away. That worked perfectly. Let's move on to the next section. We still have some pretty cool features to show you. You can get creative with Layer Switch and not just pop up layers, but also track button selections. This becomes useful in a sports bar setting. Let's select our homepage on the sports bar iPad. And I'm going to select the bar page. Here you can see a bunch of TV selections. Now, many times you want to select multiple televisions. You don't just want to select one TV at a time and then the source selection. Now, a lot of drivers like AVPro's MX NetDriver include the ability to select multiple outputs and then an input, or select an input and multiple outputs. In this example, we're going to select multiple television selections, and then we're going to switch them by selecting a source on the left side. So how is this done? Well, first, we have 6 TVs here, and you could have as many as you want, up to the exclusive 75 limit. If you have more TVs, create another group. I'm going to go and select our layer switch driver, and I'm going to create another group here for our exclusive layer group. I'm going to select used, and I'm going to call this TV selections. And since we have 6 TVs, I'm going to select 6 different layers. And I'm going to name the layers. Let me just set that right. And I'm going to name the layers TV1 through TV6. Naming the layers isn't always necessary, but I recommend doing it. Now that we have the 6 layers, let's go back to our page. On this page, I'm going to, when I select each DirecTV, I'm going to enable the selection. That will allow me to enable multiple selections within my TV group. So for TV1, select source, then go to our commands and bring in a command. I'm going to select the layer switch, and this time I'm going to use the layer switching for my TV selections. And I'm going to toggle my first TV. I'm also going to head down to my variable and make sure that I reverse state my TV1 selection. I'm going to go to my TV2 now, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. For the macro, I'll copy the macro from TV1, and then TV2, paste, and toggle TV2. I'll go and select my variable for that TV as well. So TV2, and then I'm going to rinse and repeat for the rest of the TVs. I'll pause the video while I do that. Now all of the televisions have a macro which will toggle that TV selection within the group, and then a reverse state to highlight the TV as such when that TV is selected. We could deselect TVs by selecting them again, and it will show the normal state. Now that we can track what TVs are selected, let's select DirecTV 1. I'm going to go to the macro side, and I'm going to program a macro to track what TVs were selected. So for example, I'm going to bring in my system variable test, and I'm going to say if layer switch says that TV1 status is true, well, then I'm going to put in a command in here to switch that TV. Switch TV1 input to DirecTV. I don't have a driver to do that here, but that's what you'll do. We'll duplicate that, and we'll say if TV2 status is true, and we'll switch TV2 input to DirecTV 1. Let's make a copy of that and continue on. If TV3 status is true, we'll set TV3 to DirecTV 1. I'll pull this window up while we finish the rest. TV4, we'll switch TV4 to DirecTV. Finally, 5, we'll set TV5 input to DirecTV 1. And last but not least, we'll select if TV6 status is true, set TV6 to DirecTV 1. And this will switch whatever TVs are selected or enabled within our map. Now this may look like a lot of work with larger sports bars, but with copy and pasting, it's actually pretty easy. to copy and paste the commands. And now you'll move on to TV2. You'll copy this entire macro by holding down the Shift key, paste, and then you'll just rinse and repeat. You'll select TV2 to DirecTV 2, TV1 to DirecTV 2, and you'll just change your commands to DirecTV 2. It's that simple. I'll go and finish all these commands so you can get an idea of how this works. I'll pause the video after I configure this TV. Now that all the macros have been programmed, let's recap how this will work. Let's say we select TV1. This will enable TV1 and reverse state TV1. Maybe we select TV5. That will reverse state TV5 as well. And TV6, it will reverse state and enable that layer in the group. Now, once you select a DirecTV, let's say you select DirecTV 5, it will run through this routine, checking to see what TVs have been enabled and switch if that status has been enabled. And I recommend, if you're doing this, to have a clear all or select all for party groups. And that's all you need to do. And you can use this for matrix switches, video over IP, or anything else you could think of. And you can easily switch your televisions. If you select your TV again, it will deselect the TV by toggling it to disabled. And you can disable your TVs that way. Again, you're going to want to do a clear all button on the top corner just so the client can deselect all the TVs they selected in larger systems. Now that that's done, let's go to the next page and go over a global type of setup and finish up by showing you the driver events available. Now we have a layer for a video wall in a singles mode and a video wall for the wall scene. Both of these layers are contingent on these two buttons. So if I select the wall button, the wall layer will pop up. And if I select the wall layer will pop up. And if I select the singles button, the singles layer will show up. Now in this setup, you definitely want to have at least one layer showing from the onset without having to have a none selected. That doesn't look good or appear good. So let's configure this the way we want. Let's head over to our layer switch in our driver properties. And let's create a new layer group. I'm going to create one more layer group, and I'm going to call this video wall scenes. And I'm going to create two layers in the group. One's going to be called wall, and one of them is going to be called singles. Or we'll do 2 by 2. Whatever you want to call it is fine. Now that we have these, let's go back to our iPad and program this. So for our video wall, let's select this button right here, and let's program the scene. So let's bring in a command, select a layer switch, and let's set that layer for the video wall scenes. We don't want to use enabled because we only want one scene enabled at once. So let's set the wall scene for that button. Let's go to the reverse state and highlight that button when the wall scene is selected. Wall status under video wall scenes. And then for the next button, let's go to the macro. Let's paste that. Oh, wrong button. Let's go and copy this first. Paste it into here and select the singles 2 by 2 and then reverse state that when that scene is invoked. Okay, so far so good. Now let's program the video wall visible state. For the singles, let's select the singles. And then for the video wall scene, let's select the wall status. Now, this will work really well when the client selects the wall will pop up. And when he selects the singles will pop up. And of course, this will reverse state and the singles will show up. However, One of the problems with this particular scenarios is that if nothing is selected, it's going to look like this when the client first runs the system. You want to have something showing. I want to have that wall scene set up to be my first scene. So in other words, when the client fires up the system, I want this to be shown at once, the same time. I don't want this to have to force a selection. I want this to show by default. Fortunately, there's a way to handle that. Now, if you go to the layer switch driver and click on events, you're going to see some events, but just for the global pop-ups. So you could set an event if any are selected, or any in the group are cleared, or any are set, all in the group are set, or all in the group are cleared, or none in the group are set, or none in the group are cleared. But that's just for the global base pop-ups, the ones that aren't exclusive to the controller. Now you can create the video wall switching on a global pop-up, but it's going to pop up in the on multiple controllers around the sports bar, and that could be fine. Now, another way to do it, if you don't want to use global pop-ups, which we have plenty, is to go to the general startup pop-up. And now here, you can go and select that command. So I could go to my layer switch, I can go to my set layers, and I could go to my video wall scenes and force that wall selection. Please note that that will pop up after 1 minute after the driver is fully loaded. So if you run your system and send it to the processor, you have to wait about a minute for it to fully initialize and then run. So be patient while that does its thing, and you'll have that pop-up enabled. So again, you have the important pop-ups in the global group. You have a general startup that you could use for any. And so I recommend using that in your layer switch. Before we end the lesson, I want to thank our friends at Myantic AV Distribution in India for creating the layer switch driver and supporting it. It's been a revolutionary driver for RTI installers, saving a lot of time and creating some really creative installations. All right, so we're going to end this, but before we do, let's show you the iPad for the sports bar. It's really not going to do anything, and we'll show you the video wall. So I'm going to go and switch over to my iPad and show you that. Here we are inside the bar. Let's start by making some selections. TV 1, TV 3, and let's select TV 5. And now when we select a DirecTV, those TVs will switch. We could also deselect those TVs and then select another whole batch of TVs. TV 6, then we can untoggle them. TV 5, 6, and 4, select all of them. You get the idea. And then just select whatever DirecTV you want, and those TVs will switch, whether you have one or many. Now let's take a look at our video wall. You can see that our video wall is set. We could set it to singles, or we could set it back to the video wall. Or, of course, back to singles. It'll work the same way when we select the quadrants and then the DirecTVs. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Let me know if you have any questions, and experiment, play around with Layer Switch, and you'll get the hang of it. It's an amazing driver, and I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.